right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I do not have my Minecraft mug today, or at least I have it. I'm just not using it. Thank you all so much for showing up. Randall Hibbard, we got Keith Lane, Micah is here. You guys are awesome. If you have not taken the opportunity to go ahead and like the video, do that now. For those of you who have not made yourself known in the chat, that's fine too. You can be a creeper. You can just hang out in the shadows. Say something only whenever it's applicable. But today, we're going to be talking about some online collaboration best practices. And this could not be shared at a better time, considering the current state that we're in. Hey, Wind Chime Studio is here. Decided he was going to come out of the shadows. Hey, El Primo Te Invita. Probably just messed that all up. But anyway, thanks for coming on. I believe it's your first time here, by the way. Congratulations. Greatly appreciate those who stopped by for the first time. But as I was saying, given the day... Oh, Miami. Disley. Says no vid. That's weird. Not sure what you mean by that. I'm not sure if the video cannot be seen. Yeah, okay. At any rate, given the day and age in which we're living right now, it's really hard for individuals to collaborate with the whole social distancing and things like that that's going on. So today we're going to be talking about some online collaboration best practices. And then we are going to... Yeah, this is... Okay, I see what you guys are saying now. Yeah, this is the episode title, the thumbnail. So yeah, you're going to see that for just a minute. Charlotte is not trained enough yet to mess with the faders, but she did go to the vet today, and we think she has a thyroid problem. But other than that, she's doing great. So to all of you who are worried about just seeing a static picture and hearing a voice, you're only supposed to see a static picture right now. This is kind of how I introduce the show. I only show the sort of the episode title, what we're going to be talking about. All right, so for those of you who have also just joined in, we are talking about online collaboration best practices. Thank you, Keith. She's doing great. She handled it like a champ. Had to get blood drawn and that whole nine. But anyway, if it is your first time here, I know that I see some individuals who it is their first time. I want to let you know that this channel exists to simplify the complexities of the home studio and to help you make professional sounding music in a less than professional space. The motto around here is you can dream alone, you can create alone, but together we can achieve so much more. Now, before we go any farther, these numbers have not been updated, especially since the last live stream. With third shift, a real job outside of the studio, and starting school and all kinds of other madness, as you've just heard with my cat. These numbers have not been updated. However, we do want to give a huge shout out to these individuals still who are the HSS chart toppers, or the Home Studio Simplified chart toppers. These are individuals who, on the left-hand side, the black number represents how much they have given in super chat donations, and on the right side you'll see if they have a P next to their name there, that's the Patreon logo. That means that they are monthly Patreon account members, so they give a monthly donation to help keep this channel alive, and because of that they get extra little perks. I just did a studio tour for them. Gonna be doing some more live stuff only for my Patreons, and they have access to me when others do not. For instance, I just got off the phone with James Sheets and we discussed mixing desk options. So yeah, there's all kinds of cool stuff going on over at the Patreon page. And if we get to the point where we're creating a steady source of income, at least $500 a month, I'm going to be purchasing gear reviewing the gear, and then giving it back to only those Patreon members. So it's going to be a close-knit group of people with a very high chance of winning cool pieces of gear. All right, so we're going to move on now to what everybody is wondering about, and hopefully now you'll be okay that you can see me. This is no longer just a static picture. Today we're going to be talking about online practices, or the sort of the best foot forward that you can do for collaborating and sharing things online. Coffee is in hand, and today the online collaboration best practices podcast version is underway, as well as the YouTube video. So you guys are actually going to be witnessing today a podcast version at the same time that you'll be witnessing the video. So those of you who are here for the YouTube live stream, you have the ability to ask questions and to interact. For those of you who are listening on the podcast version of this, you have the ability to listen. So let's go by way of announcements. Let's talk about the fact that the July edition of the HSS Song Contest is over. And hey, what's up, buddy? And if you hear me say that randomly, by the way, and you're listening to this on a podcast, there is a live stream going on. So people are popping on and I'm saying hello. It's not just Tourette's. The July edition of the HSS Song Contest is over, and Gary Brune came out on top as the winner. Now, Gary's song was chosen by a panel of judges here on the channel that I had arranged to be on the show for the live stream, and I will have a link to that in the description of the video, as well as in the description of the podcast. If you want to go and check that video out again, it's a really fun time. We got to listen to all the songs a couple of live streams before that, and I gave personal mix critiques on those. And then we all came together collectively, and we definitely had a good time. That was very awesome. Now, the August edition of the HSS Song Contest is in full swing. It's on. There's also a link in the description of the video to submit your songs to that. Now, there are a few changes from the previous song contest into this one. Every time I do these, I learn something new, and we're all learning this together. So that's kind of the cool thing about this. So there will only be one file per submission this time around. I had individuals that submitted pretty much entire albums, and although I did say that was okay at that particular time, I realized now that was very taxing. I had to break up the live stream into two separate entities just to cover all of that music. I do appreciate the width, the length, the breadth of the music. Every bit of it was amazing. But for sake of time and for keeping it kind of fair for others, we're going to go ahead and keep that to one file per submission. So your best song, your best mix that you've made, that's the one that you want to submit. No copyrighted material. It can be in either MP3 or WAV format. Don't send me like AIFF files or anything crazy that I'm going to have to convert, which could degrade the sound. Now, if you're going to be submitting an MP3, I would definitely suggest that you submit it in like the insane profile, something that would probably be a best practice. You don't want to do anything like under 128, bits. That's just going to be worthless. It's not going to sound good at all, because then YouTube is going to degrade it even more. And by the time people hear it on here, they're going to go, wow, that sounds like junk. When in actuality, it might be a really great sounding song. So try to make sure it's the highest sample rate, bit depth. I'll get it right here in a minute, that you can possibly get. There is an option to, in any of those aggregators, whether it's your DAW or it's Audacity or whatever you might be using, there is a way to make that a high fidelity MP3 file, or at least as high fidelity as you can get. And it'll also save on space. Now, the other thing is we do have a sign up still for HSS session players. This is something new that I've kind of started here. We love the collaboration aspect of that, and we kind of have huddled around this channel for that same purpose of collaborating with one another. That's what the whole song contests, the mix critiques, and all of the tutorials that are taught on this channel are all focused on helping everybody to dream, create, and achieve more together. And so the session players sign up is going to be essentially taking that collaborative effort that we have created here on this channel, this community, and saying, okay, now we have projects that are coming in from you and me and everybody else that's in this community. Let's say maybe you have a project that comes in, a client approaches you and they say, hey, I want this song recorded. I want it mixed and mastered. And you're like, okay, great. You listen to the song, and as a producer, you think, man, this bass guitar does not really sound good. You can tell it's maybe a low-end bass guitar, or maybe it's just poorly recorded, or you really think you could serve the song better by laying down a better bass track. Then you can simply go up to this session player sign up sheet that you'll have access to and say, okay, I know there's a bass player here that I can hire, and I can get them work, which is part of this collaborative effort as well. I can get them work and get great tracks for my project and charge more in the long run because the project is going to sound great. So it's going to be a way to help everybody stay musically motivated and also help everyone to maybe even offset their income a little bit, make a little extra money on the side, and just have fun. That's what it's all about, right? James, hey, he's on here. He said he was going to try to show up, and he did, by golly. A man of his word. Disley, nice to see you, buddy. Micah, Keith, Jurgen, nice to see you. I seen, I see Windchime Studio, GV Deviver. Oh yeah, I remember who that is. Yeah. And Randall Hibbard. The COVID and coffee collab. That's a good idea. For those of you who are listening to this on the podcast version, just ignore my random ramblings towards the chat. If you were watching this on a video, you would understand, which, by the way, you can. Okay, so now let's talk about some different things that we have going on here. Normally, during this portion of the podcast, Gerard, boom, I knew it. I almost said that, but I was like, I don't want to butcher his name. Evan Wilson, what's up, buddy? Nice to see you. So, let's talk about, normally at this point in the podcast, after I give the introduction and I give the announcements, I will actually talk about 3 free plugins. Well, this month, the 3 free plugins have been replaced by online collaboration tools to sort of go with what this topic is about. So, and by the way, this is episode 52 of the podcast. For those of you who are watching this, if you did not know that there is a podcast, that's in Apple iTunes. It's also on the website under the podcast tab. You can go and listen to all other 51 episodes. There's a ton of great audio stuff you can take with you. And, oh, thank you so much, James Sheets. You're awesome. Just got a $10 super chat from James. He's the man. So let's go ahead and go into that segment now. And we're going to talk about the ear to the ground. This segment is the segment of the show where we talk about all things audio, but we mainly will focus on 3 free plugins, gear reviews, and maybe new products that are coming out. However, like I've already said, this time we're going to be talking about some collaboration tools that I feel like will help you guys, especially if this community really starts to take off and we start to collaborate together. And I'm going to show you here in just a minute a collaborative effort that we've already been utilizing here within the community. It's a song that was actually submitted for the last, hey, Mark, good to see you, buddy. The last song contest. And I love the song so much. I reached out to the artist, found out it was actually the dad of the artist, and proud father moment. He said, actually, that's my daughter singing. Got access to the multi-tracks, been sharing it amongst individuals now, and we are in process of actually mixing this song together. And production elements are flying in daily from different individuals. So super cool stuff happening there. Let's go ahead and talk about these 3 online collaboration tools today. So the first one that I want to talk about is Flock. So with Flock, team members can exchange messages, share files, they can host video conferences, manage to-dos, and set up calendar events, all from one easy-to-use app. Flock integrates with popular business tools such as Google Calendar, Google Drive, Asana, MailChimp, and Twitter, making it easier for team members to stay on top of things without juggling a dozen different apps. So Flock also has a free plan. By the way, I am not sponsored, endorsed, or paid for by any way by these companies that I'll be mentioning today. I just feel like they're going to be great resources for you to start collaborating online with. I have actually started a Flock account and opened up and invited some individuals to that already to sort of do a beta run test on that. So far, so good. There's a little bit of a hiccup with some of the file sharing stuff, but I think we're working through it. And I've only got the free plan right now too. But with that free plan, you get unlimited team members and one-to-one messages. You get 10 public channels for group conversations. It's sort of similar to like how Discord works or Slack, where you have these separate channels, which are kind of like chat rooms that you can set up for different things. With projects being involved, that would be awesome. Like say, for instance, right now, and I may even show you this here in just a minute. For instance, right now, I have a Flock account set up and I have one room that's for the song that we're collaborating on. And then I have another that's just like a general collaboration where people can come in and maybe even post files or things that they're wanting to share back and forth with one another. So it's like an inclusive community there. You get unlimited one-to-one video calls, 5 gigabytes of storage for file sharing, and 10,000 message history for quick search. There's built-in productivity apps such as shared notes, polls, and reminders, and there's unlimited integrations for third-party services, as already mentioned. Now, if you need more room, Flock Pro actually unlocks enhanced admin controls, gives you group video conferencing, unlimited channels, guest accounts, more file storage, and access to priority support. And it's only $4.50 a month. That's if you pay yearly. Now, if you pay monthly, it's only $6 a month. And that's pretty much a steal. So their free plan is pretty generous and it's free. So it's your call if you want to use it or not. Definitely something that I think would be good to look into as an online collaboration tool to use. Hey, Tim, nice to see you, buddy. So if that's something that you like the sound of, I have included a link in the description of the podcast or in the description of this video for going and joining the HSS Collab Flock. And then you can kind of sort of test it with me and we can all collaborate on there as well. I'm trying to create as many avenues as I can for individuals to collaborate, to work well together, and also to create sort of an all-in-one place where you guys, if you need something, you can come here as the hub sort of to get that. So number 2 on the list we're going to talk about is Slack. Now, if you've heard of Team Chat, you've probably heard then of instant message channels, video calls, integrations, and they definitely have hundreds of third-party tools as well. Slack has it all, really. But the free plan does limit you to 10 service integrations, so you have to kind of choose wisely. Now, Slack's free plan includes unlimited users, messages, and channels, unlimited one-to-one voice and video calls, 5 gigabytes of storage for file sharing, 10K message history, and the usage of up to 10 apps or service integrations. For video conferencing, you get up to 15 participants and guest accounts. You'll need to upgrade to a standard plan that costs $667 per user per month. And there's also a plus plan that adds more features at $12.50 a user per month. So that's definitely another option, a little bit more costly, and in my personal opinion, a little bit more to wrap your head around. I did not much care for Slack in the sense that it was just one of those things that I don't know, I couldn't wrap my head around it. It didn't seem very intuitive at all. So that's always an option, though. Maybe that's something that you will actually like and fall in love with. I personally did not. I'm finding that the Flock is similar, but it seems more intuitive. So for right now, at least, I'm going to start trying to use this Flock thing. It sounds pretty cool. And then if you're a Microsoft, obviously most people here are Cakewalk users. You have a PC, which means you're obviously a Microsoft user. For Microsoft Teams, number 3 is another option. So on our third on our list is the Microsoft Teams. Initially an exclusive for businesses with Office 365 subscriptions, Microsoft Teams has since launched a free plan for small businesses. I personally have looked at it. I love its innovative features such as inline translations for messages. That's pretty cool. and the ability to record meetings with automatic transcriptions, which that could definitely be useful as well. And also a plus is its deep integrations with OneDrive and Office 365 services. So Microsoft Teams is yet again another option. The free plan on that includes up to 300 users, unlimited messages, channels, and search, unlimited audio and video meetings with up to 250 participants, 10 gigabytes of team file storage with 2 gigabytes per user, and 140 plus apps and service integrations. For advanced collaboration features such as meeting recordings and automatic transcriptions, you'll need to pony up for an Office 365 subscription. And the Office 365 Business Essentials cost $5 a month. And the full-featured Office 365 Business Premium will set you back at $12.50 a month. So, that's yet again another option. I see Jurgens in the chat. He says that his company uses Slack, so he's used to it. Awesome. Yeah, if you're used to it, that it might actually be a viable option if the other individuals that are collaborating with you are used to it as well. I personally just could not wrap my head around it, could not get into it. It just was not intuitive enough for me. I wanted to see it more like a phone chat style type thing instead of this weird hashtaggy. I'm not even sure how to explain it. But anyway. Okay, so we've talked about 3 free tools that I feel like will definitely help you to start collaborating online. But now let's literally like dive into what are some best practices for sharing files, for collaborating back and forth. There's no better time than to talk about this than now with the social distancing that's going on, individuals that need to work out things within their studios more than ever. And also the fact that with these song contests that are going on, you might actually like another person's work and say, hey, I'd love to collaborate with you. I loved your guitar work on that, or I loved your whatever it might be. So as we're doing these song contests every month, it's sort of like putting you guys out there like a resume as well. You have to think of it like that. It's not just submitting a song so that you can get a free mix critique from me. And, hey, Mark, good to see you, buddy. So it's not just about that. It's also about obviously creating and releasing things too. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to do it, was to get everyone's head wrapped around making stuff and creating it and releasing it. Because once you get to that point where you start to release it, you feel more comfortable with your work, then you can really start amping up your game, because the more comfortable you feel with it, the more that you start to do it, the better you get. It starts to snowball. And before you know it, you've got clients knocking on your door and you're offsetting your income doing what you love. Evan Wilson, great question. Yes, the song contest is in full swing even as of now. And the deadline for that submission. Hey, what's up, buddy? I believe we have another first time user here who just showed up, Kit B74. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you decided to show up. So, with all that being said, definitely submit a song this time around if you have not already. There is a link in the description of this video to submit that. Or actually, I don't know if there is yet. There will be, okay? There's also one on the Facebook page where you can go there and you can check that out. There's a link within the HSS Collab group that is a part of the Facebook page. And there will be links everywhere else to make sure that you can get involved in that. It's on the Instagram page as well. So definitely want to submit that. The deadline, I believe, I think I've set it for the 15th. No, that's too soon. I believe I set it for the 20. It's towards the end of the month. You got plenty of time. I don't even know if I have set a deadline yet. I probably need to do that. Anyway, let's talk about some best practices for collaborating online. So the thing is, even here recently, I've ran into some of these issues, and that's another reason why I wanted to sort of hit this now, so that for individuals who might be helping me with the current song that we're working on, you can come back to this and others can actually gain knowledge from this as well. And it's not just me like telling a couple of people who are working alongside of me. This could be everyone could benefit from this. So the number one thing that I want to bring out is to check your file formats. Now, when I presented the song, and I think you might be right, Tim. I think it was the 27th. Thank you, by the way, for putting that in the chat. Yes, it is the 27th. Thank you guys. I'm with third shift and everything that's going on. It's hard to keep track of anything anymore. So I'm pretty much walking zombie right now. But anyway, and enter another coffee drink. So recently I put it out there to several individuals who I had chosen to work with me on this project. And I told them I need 24-bit 44.1 files. And unfortunately, whether it might have been my own fault that I didn't specifically just drive that point home, but I had a couple of individuals that sent tracks back at 32-bit 48K. Now, I understand the whole thing of, wanting the highest fidelity, but if the project is at 24-bit 44.1 and that's what is submitted to you, then it's the best practice is to record and make sure that your DAW is set up at 24-bit 44.1. Now, if you can't achieve that because your DAW won't allow you or anything like that, you need to make that expressly known to the producer who's reaching out to you for help. So if you can only get 16-bit files, you need to let them know that. If you can only record in 96K, you need to let them know that. But with Cakewalk and most any other DAW, there's certainly a way that you can go in and change the bit rates or the bit depth and the sample rates at any given time. So you need to make sure that you're all on the same page. If the original project starts out at 24-bit 44.1K as a sample rate, then you need to make sure that all of the files that will be submitted or passed back and forth need to be at that same sample rate. So, also the other part of that. So I'm gonna kind of talk to producers. Producers, if you're reaching out and you're asking people, you need to be very clear about what format that you're working with, your bit rate, your bit depth, and your file types. Whether you're wanting AIFFs, whether you're wanting raw files, what kind of file types are you working with? Most people are predominantly working with WAV files, so shouldn't be too big of a deal. And almost everybody pretty much generally knows that's sort of the given. However, you need to be clear about that right up front so that everyone knows that. And I'm talking to myself right now, especially too. So as far as the musicians, if you're a musician who's working on a project with somebody, then if you don't know what the producer needs, you definitely need to not be afraid to ask. They'll probably appreciate the fact that you did. And if you aren't sure how to calibrate those sorts of parameters in your DAW of choice, the producer will probably even be able to guide you in the right direction. Just a little hint, it usually involves a couple of clicks in your DAW preferences menu and you're there. So that's step number one. The first and foremost thing that I wanted to bring out was check your file formats, make sure that everyone is working within the same file parameters. Number two is to deliver the same length of consolidated tracks. So yet again, on the producer's side of this, when you send off files to your remote collaborators, the easiest thing to do is to usually provide a mix of the song with a couple of bars of silence at the very top of it. And if you even want to go above and beyond, maybe even include a 2-bar count in. Now, if the song starts out with no instrumentation to begin with, you don't necessarily need that. If the song starts out with some sort of an intro that doesn't require a count in, there's really no need to do that. But if it just right off the bat, it jumps into a song, a 2-bar count in at least would be beneficial. Now, for musicians who are wanting to make sure that they deliver the same length of consolidated tracks, when you prepare your takes to send off, it usually is the easiest to make sure that they're the same length as the mix that you were tracking to. So if there were silence at the top, then leave that in your tracks as well. The producer should be able to import your tracks into the beginning of their session and start working with them right away. Preparing tracks in this way works more or less like printing stems, and Cakewalk has this option, and it's very, very easy. You just simply export as tracks, and it's super simple to use that. Please, whatever you do, don't send anybody a bunch of short files that have to be lined up manually. The best thing to do is to just highlight the entirety of the whole project. And the best way to do that in Cakewalk is just to simply go to one of the track the icons where the track number is and simply double click it. It highlights everything within the project and it automatically sets the endpoint at the end of the last and the longest waveform or track. So that means everything is going to be exported at the same block of time. That's what you want to do. That way, whenever you import that into another DAW, it could even be Pro Tools, it could be Studio One. As soon as you import it, it's all automatically lined up. All they have to do is make sure whenever they fly it in that they're all pushed back to the front and we're good to go. And that will save people a ton of time. So check your file formats, number one. Number two, make sure that you're delivering the same length of consolidated tracks. You don't want to include empty space where there was not empty space in the original track submitted. You don't want to include anything that would mess with the timing whatsoever. You just want to play within the confines of whatever the tracks were delivered at. Okay. Number three is to label your tracks properly. This is huge. If someone hires you to play on their song and you send them back a bunch of files with the names like audio 0012003, I promise you that they will probably never hire you again, especially if you also ignored my previous point of making sure that their tracks are the same length. Now, giving track names that illustrate what they are. So, for instance, dark synth pad, bridge flute melody, backup Vox 1A, etc. You want to make sure that you're as specific as possible with the labeling of the tracks. Now, labeling tracks clearly is especially important when sharing instruments recorded with multiple mics, like a drum kit. Don't assume that a producer will be able to hear that drum 5 is a floor tom and drum 7 is an overhead. Give those tracks and file names that make it more clear and exactly just precise what you're handing over. Okay? So number three, label them tracks properly. Number four, and this touches on Mark Bergstaller's point right here, provide BPMs, charts, references, and mock-ups if you can. Now, this point goes out to producers specifically. The best way to get great takes from remote session players is to set them up to succeed. So find out what supplemental materials and information will help them to get the most from them. So clearly labeling your BPMs is a good first step. Definitely. And if you're sending a temp mix for players to track to, include the BPM somewhere in the file. It's a great move to start with. Some players actually may prefer having the song broken into multiple stems so that they can build their own monitor mix, like say a mix without drums or a mix without bass guitar. If they're laying down a bass track, obviously you want to remove those elements so it's not distracting. If so, then you need to ask them how they'd like those stems to be broken down. And if you can make a mock-up of the parts that they're recording, they'll likely appreciate having that on a separate track that they can mute while recording as well. Now, many players will also appreciate getting some sort of written notation. This is not always, doesn't have to be, but if you can provide this, it will be greatly beneficial to those individuals as well. So even if it's a full-on score isn't necessary, chord charts and notes at the least on the structure of the song can be very helpful. So remember, every minute that a session player spends trying to understand what you're asking from them is a minute that they're not spending recording their parts. And this is going to make their lives easier, and they'll honestly repay the favor by giving you great takes that I'm sure that you'll love. All right, number 5 is to set clear expectations. This is a huge one right here. So when I have someone record tracks for me remotely, I usually trust them to apply whatever processing they think makes their instrument to sound good. Some producers may prefer to get the tracks bone dry. Now, I prefer to have a wet version to see where they were going with it and a dry version, so that if I see the direction that they're going with it, but I feel like I can get in that direction with it setting in the mix better, then I can sort of do my own mixing ninja tricks on that. So from that standpoint, then, although some producers want you to give them a bone dry track, some of them, like myself, might want a bone dry and a wet track. And by wet, I just mean, and I realize I have to explain this because last time I said this, someone was like, what do you mean by wet and dry? So a dry track is essentially just a DI source mainly with nothing on it. Or it could just be a mic'd up cab with no effects on it. Basically, it's just a recorded instrument or a VST instrument, whatever it might be, that's got no processing done on it whatsoever. It's just completely like right out of the box how you recorded it. Now, the wet version is the version where you might have added reverb and compression and effects. So dry is completely unaffected, and wet has your effects sort of baked into it. Now, some producers may want the screaming guitar solo that you just recorded to come with a clean DI take to have that as a backup, as I just said. The point here is that everyone works differently, and it's never safe to assume that a collaborator will automatically know what you need from them. If it's unclear what a collaborator expects from you, there's no shame in checking in with them. Just ask, Remember, it's much harder to get what you want if you really never ask for it. So I know Micah is asking export MIDI Cakewalk bundle. If you're working with someone who is working with Cakewalk, a Cakewalk bundle can be beneficial just for the sense that they are going to be able to pull up the exact same session, kind of see where you're going with it. I have been requesting Cakewalk bundles because most of the people that I've been working with here lately use Cakewalk. But to be perfectly honest, I think I'm almost leaning more towards just asking just for the multi-track exports here lately, because the Cakewalk bundles, usually they have like a lot of hidden tracks that I don't see, or there's a ton of plugins that I don't own. So it's kind of pointless for me to even pull up the project that way. So sending a bundle is still a viable option. There's also a way to send just the MIDI file. If you've recorded something, you can send just that MIDI file itself, and then they can load up any instrument on that MIDI file and get whatever performance that you've played as well. Mark Bergstaller says another point is to render or freeze the tracks before sending stems in case not everyone has the same plugins. Great point. That's exactly what I was just talking about. So rendering those out to just as tracks, which you can do within Cakewalk by BandLab, export, and then go to your drop-down menu and select tracks, rendering those out as 24-bit, 44.1, if that's what the project calls for. WAV files is an excellent idea. So that was number 5, set clear expectations. Number 6, we're moving along with lightning speed here. Number 6, provide alternate takes. So this point goes out to the musicians more so than the producers this time. But musicians recording parts remotely is really who this is intended for. So if a producer is giving you free reign to do your thing on their track, they probably have appreciated the fact that you have a few different versions to work with. So a standard way of approaching this is to provide a mild, medium, and spicy takes that range from being more sparse to more adventurous and busy. The producer may have more specific ideas in mind, though, like a take with a swung feel or a take in a higher octave. So get clear on what they'd like to have from you before you, yet again, make your expectations known. So before you start submitting things, your alternate takes, make sure that you know what kind of alternate takes they might be in the ballpark looking for. So keep in mind, providing lots of alternate takes doesn't get you off the hook of having to deliver files that can be organized easily, however. So be prepared to label the different takes in ways that make clear what they are, and to provide notes when you share the files. And that's where I really feel like some of the collaborative tools that I shared earlier are going to really pay off in dividends, because then you can not only just share the files, but you'll have a open line of chat back and forth where you can talk about those files within that sphere, and everyone who's involved in the project can see that chat as well. All right, number 7, record at a healthy level. This is huge too. Now, in the days when all recordings happened on analog tape, a producer's MO was actually to capture a signal as hot as possible without clipping, so that it would sit above the noise floor introduced by all that analog gear that they used to drool over. That hot signal would also benefit from some natural compression, introduced by hitting the tape hard, and sweet saturation from almost everything in the chain. In the average home recording setup, however, we're more likely to run into a different set of issues. Most home studios now don't include any kind of tape setup, and the noise floor introduced by a buzzing refrigerator in the other room or a busy city street outside your window is only going to get louder as the preamp gain goes up. And while vintage consoles often really shine when driven to the edge, the The preamps on a mid-shelf audio interface are more likely to introduce brittle, shrill distortion when cranked. So I usually ask long-distance collaborators to record tracks with peaks around -12 dbfs, a signal that is loud enough to sit above the noise floor introduced by recording gear, but far enough from the ceiling that no distortion will be introduced by the preamp when being used. -12 is a really great, healthy recording level. By doing so, too, you're going to save yourself a lot of headache of having to go back and fix or overdub whenever you clip something. Number 8. Now, this one is often overlooked, and up until here recently, I really started asking for this. And number 8 is leave in some noise. That sounds counterintuitive to the last tip, but let me make my point here. Now, there are some pretty sophisticated noise reduction software available these days, and chances are that your producer has access to some of it. It can be tempting to want to clean up the noise in a dead space of a song, either by manually deleting spaces between phrases or using a gate. I do appreciate it when collaborators do some of that cleanup for me. However, in order to get the most out of a noise reduction plugin like Isotope RX, it's much easier to have a section of pure noise that the software's algorithms can then learn in order to more fully remove it. As always, the safest move is to check in about what the producer prefers, again. But for those of us who have only used our own home setups to record demos, it can be daunting to have to record tracks that will go on someone's record. For producers who are used to sitting in a room with an artist while they record the takes, it can also be difficult to get what they're looking for without being able to give the feedback in real time. Fortunately for all of us involved, it's only getting easier to clear these sort of huddles, even if we all have to make some minor adjustments. So hopefully now you've got a sense of some big ways that you can make long-distance collaborations go more smoothly and hopefully be able to collaborate easier in the long run. And I'm looking forward to collaborating with each and every one that I can here within this sphere as well. So the question that I have for you are, what other sorts of problems have you encountered with recording remotely? And what kind of creative solutions have you come up with? Let me know in the comment section, either down below, or you can write me at homestudiosimplified@gmail.com. And that came out really weird, gmail.com. Sound like I said Gmail. And you can drop me some of your comments there as well. So I see that Jurgen is in the chat. He's asking -18 RMS, -12 peak. Yes. -12 peak. That's like the sweet spot for most things anyway. So although this does wrap up today's episode of the HSS podcast, if you found it helpful, drop a comment and let me know. Feel free to share this with anyone that you think it might be helpful as well. And remember that if you're watching this on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel and hit that beautiful bell icon that alerts you when new content is dropping or a live stream is about to go down. Home Studio Simplified exists to simplify the complexities of the home studio and to help you make professional sounding music in a less than professional space. Remember, we can dream alone, we can create alone, but together we can achieve so much more. Okay, fellas, I have officially recorded the podcast, and now it's just we four and no more on the stream. So I have more opportunity now to, hey, thank you guys. Awesome. So I've officially ended the podcast now, and I have the opportunity now to answer questions. And I'm also going to show you guys sort of the back end of what I'm talking about with this flock. I want to show you this because I think it's going to be a pretty cool little tool here to use. So this is kind of like what you'll see if you're inside the flock page here. It sort of looks similar to maybe like a Discord or a Slack server type thing. So what I've got here is this post here is sort of like the introduction for the individuals who are working on the song Found with me. And then underneath there, they've already got the multi-tracks, the Google Drive link for the multi-tracks so they can go and find them. Food's ready. Nice. Have a good time, Keith. Eat one for me, buddy. As you can see here, though, not only do I have the multi-tracks folder listed here, but I also have key of B major, 79 BPMs. So everywhere that I'm leaving a trail here, I'm trying to also get them up to speed as far as like where it's headed. So then I have another channel within here called the HSS General Collab. And this is where individuals are going to be able to come and just, hey, I'm working on a song. Would you guys like to help me? Or I just wrote this song. What do you guys think about it? It's just going to be kind of like a place where we can all come and hang out there. There's a lot of integrations that's already here. The calendar is here. So today's live stream, because it was scheduled, is already on the calendar. You'll see that the next live stream on the calendar, if I pull this up, is coming up on Saturday, and that's an interview with X.O. So you can click on that. It'll take you straight to that, and it'll show you when that's taking place. That's 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. next Saturday. And yes, it does allow direct messages to other users. So very cool. I think it's going to be one of those things that I'm going to be utilizing a lot of here in the near future. Even as of right now, like I said, we're working on this song together, and we're all able to come in here and discuss what's going on with the song, share files back and forth. I really think it's going to be, pretty cool. So that's Flock. I'm using the free version as of right now. And I think, Micah, I think you can go into that calendar and you can actually subscribe to the calendar through Google, and then you can set the time zone how you would like to have it set. So I'm pretty sure there's a way to do that up here in the settings. Yeah, right here. See, I've got the time zone set to this secondary time zone. Okay, so you want GMT. Let's see. There's a bunch of GMTs here. I don't see like I thought there was like a UTC, like a universal time. Troll time? That's a thing? Okay, that's weird. But yeah, you can set that up to, whatever it is that you would like. And once you're subscribed to that calendar, you can sort of change that calendar to meet your own needs. Holland. Let's see if I can do that. I'm not even sure if I can do that. So we'll go in here to settings, display a second. Let's see. Oops, I put not selected. I'm not sure if Holland is specifically on here or not. There's Halifax. There's Newfoundland. East Greenland. Greenwich Mean Time. Maybe yeah. Maybe I could do that. GMT Greenwich Mean Time. Maybe that would work. Okay, there we go. GMT +1, says Jurgen. There we go. So now when you go back into the calendar, it should display both times, depending on where you're from. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Anywho, that's some of the online collaboration tools we're currently using. I want to show you, though, this song that we're currently collaborating on, because I think you guys are going to really like it. For one, it was one of my favorites. I didn't vote it as the winner just simply because it had a few too many issues, but I loved the song, so I wanted to help those issues. So I reached out to the individual, and this is the song Found. It's an original song The artist name is Kayla Patrick. Her dad, Derek Patrick, is the one that submitted it for the last song contest. And I have got Brian Barton, who is working on bass guitar. I have got Marcel Walden, who has went above and beyond and submitted all kinds of stuff. Chris Knowles, who was one of our video submitters for the 5,000 subscriber celebration. He is doing some drum work on it. Super cool stuff there. The song itself, though, is really coming along. It's got a lot to it right now. I'm going to probably have to thin the herd a little bit. But I don't have Brian Barton's bass as of yet, so I'm still using this MIDI recorded bass. But just take a listen real quick and see where we're at with it. I think you're going to be blown away with where it's coming from. Mark Bergstaller, need any more guitars? You know, I've got an individual. Jason Reeves is working on the guitar. He's an individual Nashville session guitarist that I actually work with. Like literally work with in my real job, quote unquote. And he's actually working on some guitar parts, I believe some slide guitar. But yeah, you're more than welcome to, yeah, I know, right? You're more than welcome to submit something if you'd like. I have the multi-tracks available for download if you want to check them out. And here's the cool part. So when this song is officially, like, all of the parts are picked and the arrangement is picked and everything is like I want it, this song is going to be available for all of you to download and to add to your mix repertoire. I have emailed Kayla. We talked about it. She said it sounded like a really cool idea. This song is going to be in the newest, latest, and greatest ultimate cakewalk tutorial that I'm ever going to release. It's going to be a little bit more on the pricey side, but this thing is going to include everything that you need to know about downloading, installing, troubleshooting, everything about Cakewalk. And then you're going to have access to download these multi-tracks, to mix them alongside of me in this tutorial, master them, get them ready for preparation out into the world. And then you can even add those to your own portfolio after you put your own twist on them. The cool thing too is, she said as long as the vocals stay the same, you can do a complete remix. You can remove every element from this and add your own stuff. So that could be very cool too. The tutorial should be released by, I believe I gave Warren Hewart a deadline of September. Let's say August, September. I think it was the end of September. So don't quote me on that. But anywho, let's take a listen to the song where it stands right now. This is completely unmixed. There's really nothing going on here. I've done just a very few things, panning wise and stuff, just to kind of get a feel for it. So you'll be able to hear what it kind of sounds like right now.
You've got a sacred heart, but you don't know how to use it. Always letting strangers take it and abuse it. And you're so used to getting hurt now, it doesn't faze you. But you get kicked to the dirt, and doesn't it amaze you? The things people do to feel loved. Without someone they don't feel good enough. Don't go searching, you're supposed to be found by the right one. But you just want someone now to pick up the pieces of your heart on the ground. But you'll forget all of them when you're found. You have to love yourself before anyone else can, and wait for the moment when you least expect it to get swept off of your feet and feel something magic but you'll forget all of them when you're found.
So as you can see, lots of potential for this song. If you would have heard this song from where it started, when I first got the tracks, you would be completely blown away. So essentially, this song, when it was sent to me, which I have to say, Derek Patrick, the individual, he recorded his daughter in their little home studio, did the whole thing. Wow. He recorded very well. Her vocals were recorded very well, especially. I loved the way that he recorded her vocals. It just sounds so natural. Yes, exactly, Micah. It is a little bit crowded. That's what I mean by I'm going to have to kind of thin the herd a little. We'll have to take some things out or just, use some volume automation, things like that. The thing about it is, though, like when I was first delivered these tracks, it had drums, but they just weren't, I wasn't feeling them. And then all of this was not there. Like none of this was there. So literally, like all we had was the 2 acoustic tracks, this little plucky guitar track thing, the MIDI bass, and the drums. I couldn't get past. The drums didn't sound the greatest to me. That was the only thing that I felt was kind of like off a little bit. They were recorded well, but the beat didn't seem to fit anywhere. I wasn't feeling it. And so when I reached out and said, "Hey, would you mind me, producing this?" He was like, "Well, I'll ask her," and she was all for it. So, and then she was nice enough to say, "Not only can you produce it, but you can let others take it and do what they would like to with it." So we'll be able to add this to your repertoire. So real quick, though, I want to show you some of this. When I first listened to the song, I thought it sounded very folky, and I really I was hearing some mandolin in there, and without even asking for it, my buddy Marcel, who's a young man based out of Austria, evidently he heard the same thing too, because whenever he sent back these tracks, he included this mandolin. Check this out.
The things people do to feel loved. Without someone, they don't feel good enough. Don't go searching. You're supposed to be found.
Very cool. And if you just let it kind of nestle up underneath the mix, man, it's just awesome. Then another thing that he added that I thought that was really cool, I heard it in my head, but I didn't know exactly how to go about it, was this little build here with the backing vocals. Check this out. And in case you didn't know, I'm using the dim solo, which was, it's a way to solo tracks, but yet still be able to hear the rest of the mix. So it solos the tracks, but then it turns the rest of the mix down by, I think I have it at 12 dBs. So you get to hear that instrument, but you still hear it in context with the rest of the mix. It's pretty cool. So check out these vocals right here.
To get swept off of your feet and feel something magical, but you're so used to tragedy. Your heart is entangled. Things people do to feel loved. You're so close to giving up. Don't go searching.
Is that not cool though? I love that little. He did all kinds of great work, just sprinkling in little things. And then there's some of it where he just went full bore. Marcel has got an excellent ear for instrumentation and things. He added this Wurlitzer. Love the Wurlitzer and the Hammond. Of course, I'm a big fan of choir music and traditional church music, so this was like right up my alley too. But listen to this.
To get swept off of your
that not cool? So cool. So cool. Okay, so here's the other cool thing that he did. So without him even, I never even had to say anything. Look how he delivered these tracks. Mandolin, L, which lets me know this was probably panned to the left. Mandolin, L, found is the song title. Marcel Walden, the one that put it in there. Mandolin, R, song title. There's no way I could get messed up or mistake where this goes. Acoustic picking, L, acoustic picking, R. I did have to adjust the tuning on those with Melodyne, but other than that, Vox, L, Vox, R. That lets me know that's Vox pan to the left, Vox pan to the right. That's how he's seen it. Glockenspiel. Wurlitzer, he has them labeled. These are supposed to be stereo files. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. Whenever you're collaborating with people, like whenever I got his tracks, not only were they labeled incredibly well, but when I flew them into my session, I had to do nothing to them. They automatically fit the timing of everything because they were 24-bit, 44.1. So super cool. Now, I'm having a little bit of issues here with these drums, but I think we've got it all figured out here. Chris Knowles, he did an excellent job yet again of labeling things. Kick, overheads, rack smushed, rack tom, room, snare, snare, snare. So yet again, there was no doubt in my mind exactly what was what. Now, the only problem was these were the tracks where I got them back and they were 32-bit 48K. So the timing on them, although I've done some adjustment here to try to fix it, is not spot on. So I emailed him back and he graciously said, I'm so sorry. I'm going to re-record them in the right format. And to which case I let him know, hey, it's absolutely no problem whatsoever. This is how we learn. He said, I hope this doesn't, hurt my chances of me ever working with you again. To which case I told him, that's not what I'm about. So it's all about learning around here. And if he didn't know, then he didn't know. He said this was his first collaboration that he's ever done like this. And so, you got to have some mercy. You got to show some grace in times like that. Not everybody is session players. Not everybody's been doing this their whole life. But however, the tracks that he submitted are absolutely amazing. So he obviously knows what he's doing recording wise. Take a listen to these drums here. Those don't sound bad at all. The cool thing about Chris's work too is he was able to he sent me sort of a rundown of what he used, which was really cool. And then he said, if you don't like that snare, I can swap it out with a different snare. Super cool. Not everybody would be able to even do that. Yes, Micah, you are correct. If I export in 24-bit, then he needs to do the same. And that's why there was a little bit of a mix-up here in whenever I flew them in, I had to do all kinds of mixing ninja tricks to even get them to set right with the mix. And even still, they're not on the right timing. But he is delivering more files later this week for that. So yeah, I wanted to show you guys just basically practicing what I preach and also showing you that it is possible. So I've got 5 different people working on this song right now in total. I've got Brian Barton on the bass, Jason Reeves is on the guitar, Chris Knowles is on the drums, Marcel Walden is working on a whole slew of instruments here. I didn't even ask him for half of this stuff. And every time I ask for his help, this is what I get. I get like a ton of options. I love working with Marcel for that simple fact. And this glockenspiel, I never would have even thought about this. Listen to this. Where's it at? Right here. I never would have thought about using that in the song. And like I said, he only sprinkled it in at one specific time. So, but when you play it in context with the mix, oh my goodness. It just adds a little.
Don't go searching. Someday you'll be found and it'll make sense.
You put that in there with that mandolin.
Nobody
Oh my
else
goodness.
worked out, and they'll pick up the pieces of your heart.
Yeah. Definitely, it tells a story. Gerard, the spec of my PC. That's a good question, actually. I have a lot of people ask me this too. So I think what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and I'll just pull it up for you. And then you can actually just see it. Boom, here it is. I got a AMD Ryzen 5 2600 6-core processor. I have a 16 gigabytes worth of RAM installed. It's a 64-bit operation system. And that is that. So, and I don't think I was supposed to show you my product ID, but I don't care. I can trust you guys. At any rate, nothing too fancy, but that definitely does the trick. I would recommend, Gerard, if you are working on anything audio with the computer, AMD has never steered me wrong. A lot of people say Intel is a lot better for audio. AMD has never done me wrong. So now, however, just like with anything else, programs will always have glitches and little hangups here and there. But which, by the way, there is a new update out for BandLab. If you didn't know that already, it allows you to have multiple arranger tracks instead of just one. You can have several of these arranger tracks. Arranger track 1, arranger track 2. I haven't even used the arranger track that much, as much as I thought I would. But for those of you who are going to be using it, yeah, it's definitely cool. But there's also a lot of great features that they just added up to. He says, I'm looking at a AMD Ryzen 7 2700. Oh yeah, you should be fine with that. You should be just fine. Just make sure that your RAM, that's the big thing too. Aside from processor speed, yes, you definitely need a good processor when working with audio, especially with a lot of audio. Like in this instance here, I've got 36 tracks, and probably more to be added soon. Yeah, you definitely want to have a good processor, but you want to have a lot of RAM. 16 gigabytes is pretty much where you need it. Like, I would go no lower than 8. So 16 gigabyte. Oh yeah, you're good. Definitely good. You should be golden with that. All right. So yeah, that's where we stand with that. I wanted to let you guys kind of see a behind the scenes of, the whole collaboration that we're doing. Evan Wilson says, I was recording on a fork. Yeah, I was too. It was rough, but I was doing it. Yes, and an SSD. Great point, Micah. This computer has a 500 gigabyte SSD, and that has made a world of difference as well as far as load up times and stuff like that. And there's also, I have, which I've just discussed this before, but I have my programs on the SSD, and then I have my sound libraries on an external 3.0 drive. So that saves a lot of wear and tear on the processing as well. Awesome. Well, that's where we stand at with this song. We're definitely going to be doing some stuff here in the near future with this. Like I said, you guys are going to be able to add this pretty soon to your portfolio if you would like. I'm going to try and provide it to all those, obviously, who buy the course. And then I'm going to also provide those multi-tracks to the Patreon members. So if you're not a Patreon member, now would be a good time to sign up for the Patreon account. It is as low as $5 a month will get you access to everything. That's all of my courses, all of the downloads, all of the freebies, the studio tour that I did, all kinds of extra stuff that has never been aired on the channel, probably never will be aired on the channel. And also you're going to get more access to me through there as well, as far as Skype calls and stuff like that. So $5 a month, go check it out. It's worth it. Not only do you get those multi-tracks, but you also get a whole slew of other multi-tracks now that I've just had released from a cool company that's called Worship Tracks. worshipbackingtracks.com, I believe is the name of it. But yeah, if we look here at the Patreon page, you get a cheat sheet. You get access to the Ghostfire Artist page, which will give you a huge discount. Worship Backing Band is the name of that. They will give you have access to one multi-track download a month that you can add to your portfolio. And when you sign up for the Patreon account, you automatically get access to 5 other multi-tracks that you can download and mix and add to your repertoire. Why do I keep saying repertoire? I think I just like to say that. But yeah, if you go and let's see, I want to make sure I get this right. So this is what the page looks like. And then here are the tiers. No, I want to view. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so the base tier is $1 a month. You can join for $1 a month, and that will get you a downloadable copy of the Studio Desk plans and access to everything that's available to all patrons. $5 a month, you get access to pretty much everything. And you also get 1 entry a month for a drawing for random gear that I'll be giving away. $10 a month, you get even more than that. You get 3 entries as well. On and on it goes. I have one person who actually has signed up for a $20 a month gold tier membership, and he will be getting 5 entries whenever the gear giveaways start. So lots of cool stuff there. I would definitely recommend going and checking it out. You don't necessarily have to do it, but it's a way to help support the channel, and you get free stuff in the process of doing it. Jurgen, thank you so much, buddy, for stopping by. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. You all are awesome as usual. I love each and every one of your attitudes and your spirits. You guys are just awesome people. Before we go, let's go ahead and do something that we haven't done yet. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel of awesomeness. You didn't think we was going to go an episode without it, right? I mean, I have before, but not on purpose. I think I just forgot, honestly. But we're going to go ahead and spin the wheel today. And whatever the wheel dictates, that's what we're going to do, because that's just how we do it. Go here to... I got to find the button to spin the wheel first. All right, here we go. Let's do it. A mixed critique. Nice. Okay, so for the next individual, let's see, I'm going to give, hold on. Let me set a timer. I'm going to set a timer for, let's say, 1 minute. All right, so for the last person to comment at the end of a minute can send me a mix, and I will send you back a mix critique video for just you personally on that mix, what to do to improve it. Starting right now. All right. Last person to comment is going to get a free mix critique from yours truly in video form just for you. I'm actually drinking some Death Wish coffee right about now, actually. No weird stuff going on with my heart yet. Haven't kicked the bucket yet, so that massive insurance policy she just took out on me isn't in effect right now. But we will see. Okay. We've got 10 seconds, folks. Last person to comment in the next 10 seconds is going to get a free mix critique. 3, 2, 1. Oh, yeah. So it looks like to me the last person... the timer won't go off. All right. So the last person to comment was Mark George. Boom. All right, Mark George, you can send me a mix for me to critique for free. I'll send you back a video format letting you know what you could do to make that mix sound better, give you some tips and tricks on how to make it sound great. And that will be just for you, buddy, because you won on the Wheel of Awesomeness. Bon Gonzo, nice to see you here, buddy. Randall Hibbard says free mix. No, not free mix. Free mix critique. Whew, I better make sure I put that one there. Bon Gonzo says, I'm not even sure what's going on, but good job. Bon Gonzo, we just wrapped up an episode all about online collaboration of music. And if you'd like to go back and check that out, you're more than welcome to do so. This will be available as a podcast version as well. And we just spun the Wheel of Awesomeness. This beautiful, wonderful thing right here. And as you can see, it landed on Mix Critique. And then the last person to comment at the end of a minute was the one that won that. Oh, sweet. You love the podcast. Awesome. Glad you're listening. Yes, Mark, send it to my home studio simplified at gmail.com. And it can be in any kind of format because I'm not going to be mixing it. You can send it in MP3 or whatever. Wave would be preferable so I can hear the HD version of that mix. And then I'll send you back a little bit of a mix critique on that. It's usually about 5 minutes or less. And then usually what I do too is I add that to the group over on the Patreon page so that everybody can benefit from it as well. So it'll only be for you exclusively and for the Patreon members. So not everyone else is going to see that. Yeah, I did an older one on collabing like 3 years ago. And so I've kind of updated that since then. And yep. Yeah, I remember that show actually. That's been a while back, man alive. So for those of you who are just joining in, this actually might benefit you too, Bon Gonzo, because I know that you do a lot of collabing as far as beat contests and stuff. There's a really cool online app that's called Flock, and you can download it on your phone as well. It's essentially like a Discord server on crack. At least that's the way that I'm seeing it. And I know you use Discord a lot, so you might actually benefit more from that. I don't know. But Flock seems like a really cool way to, you can share files. You can do all your video, audio sharing there. You can comment back and forth. There's like 10 gigabytes that you all can share, something like that. And then it also seamlessly integrates with Gmail and calendars and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's free. If you want to buy the updated version, I think it's like $6 a month or $4.50 a month if you pay yearly. So, but yeah, you can go back and check all that out here in a little bit and see if that might be something that would be useful for you. Collab with 3 people just today. Nice. Bon Gonzo is all about creating that community over there. I love his channel. Love what he's doing. Keeps growing too. I love to see him growing. I love to see good people getting what they deserve. And every time I've ever worked with Bon Gonzo, it has been pleasurable. He's always provided a lot of value here on the stream. He's come on before and showcased his skills and done an absolutely awesome job at it. The episode that sticks in my mind was the interview you did with a guy doing your Strings with Wings. Such a touching episode. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I don't tell a lot of people about that either. I feel like I don't, I feel like it'd be kind of weird to tell everybody about it, but because then I feel like they might feel obligated to give just because of that. But for those of you that are here that want to know about something pretty cool that I do on the side, I'm involved with a ministry that is called Strings with Wings, and literally, cool backstory. So this guitar was given to me by a friend of mine, Daniel Massey. This guitar was given to me by the founder of the Strings with Wings ministry. That guitar was the only one I've ever bought. The bass guitar was given to me by the founder of Strings with Wings. My acoustic was given to me by the founder of Strings with Wings. I have another white electric that was given to me by the founder of Strings with Wings. And you might be asking, well, how did that happen? Well, here's sort of a cool backstory for those of you that want to hang around and listen for a little bit longer, and then I'll have to hop off here. But so several years back, over 13 years ago, me and my wife had first got married. We were living in a trailer, and in Crothersville, we were struggling to make ends meet. We had a baby on the way, and because the trailer could not hold heat, the bad thing was the electric bills were very high. So at one point in time, the guitar that I got when I first got in church, the guitar that I got had to be sold, unfortunately. And my parents, my grandparents, and my whole family had pitched in and bought this guitar for me when I first got in church as sort of a re-birthday present, because now I was going to be using my music for the right reasons instead of playing in bars and playing for people that were not so desirable. So they wanted to help me with that by buying me a new guitar. And it was the first new guitar I'd ever owned. It was an Epiphone acoustic electric. I absolutely loved it. It was in dark green, had a beautiful top to it. And it was just wonderful. And I had to sell it to make ends meet. Here I was, newly married, child on the way. I put it in the paper. I sold it for exactly what I wanted to sell it for. The guy didn't even ask to open the case. He didn't even know if there was a guitar in there. He just like, I trust you. Gave me exactly what I asked for it, which is unheard of. Nowadays, people want to talk you down like crazy. I got the money. We paid the bills. We made ends meet. I still had a guitar that I was using at the church that was not mine, but I didn't have one at the house. And for any of you who are guitarists, especially, you know, you really got to have a guitar at the house. So I went into prayer. I buried my face in the back of the couch and began to pray. I cried out to God. I said, Lord, if you will put a guitar back in my hands, I will use it for your glory. I promise you. Within a week, I met a guy at Walmart. He's walking out as I'm walking in. I boo-hooing on his shoulder about having to sell my guitar. And he says, well, man, I got this card from this guy. I don't even know if he exists or if this is even real. But supposedly there's this guy named, he looks at the card, he says Don Sherry or Cherry, and he has a ministry called Strings with Wings. Supposedly he gives guitars to people away, gives them away to people that can't afford guitars. I'm not going to do it. I don't even think the guy's real. Hands me the card. He thinks nothing about it. He walks on. I see it as an answer to prayer. So the very next day I call the guy. I explain to him the whole situation, and he says, Robert, if you were to get another guitar, would you sell it? Because obviously he doesn't want to just give a guitar away to somebody who's going to sell it. And I told him, I said, well, Don, I would feel like this was an answer to prayer. And so if you give me a guitar, it's not going to be just you that's giving me the guitar. It's going to be God working through you to give me that guitar. So I couldn't sell it. That would be like selling a blessing from the Lord off onto someone else. He said, okay, well, come on down and we'll discuss. So I go make a trip up to Greenwood, which is about an hour and 45 minutes from where I'm at. Well, about an hour and a half. And I make a trip up there in our little rinky-dink car, blow a ton of gas money. My wife is scared to death the whole time. She's like, you don't know this person. What if it's some kind of serial killer? He's going to chop us up, put us in the trunk. People just don't give guitars away, Robert. The whole time I've got in the back of my mind, I prayed about this. I really feel good about this. So we get there. like a $300,000 home in this nice little subdivision. And the guy opens the door, super nice guy. We sit down, we talk. He says, all right, let's go up to the upstairs. We're going to pick you out a guitar. I tell him I want an acoustic guitar, something I can play at the house. I go up there and he opens the door to this small 10 by 10 room that is lined with guitars stacked on the top of each other, neck to neck, in a nice way, but there's no room to even walk in this room. There's so many guitars. And he's like, go ahead and pick you out a guitar. And there's electrics, there's acoustics all over the place. Given the proclivity of who I am and how I was raised, I picked out what I felt like was the most affordable and the one that I felt like sounded the best or would fit me the best. So I pick up a little, what was the brand name of that? It was like a Taku, or it was not a Takamine. It was like a Taku, or it was like an off-brand Japanese built. Sounded great. It was a little acoustic electric cutaway. I loved it. And he said, are you sure that's the guitar you want? I said, absolutely. And he said, that's not the most expensive guitar in the room. And I knew that. And I said, I understand that, sir, but I don't want to take your most expensive guitar in the room. I just need something to play at home. And you're already doing a great service by giving me this guitar, so I'm not going to do that to you. So he's like, well, now that we have the guitar in our hands, I'm going to show you how to set the guitar up. This is a older guitar, so it's going to need some adjustments. He takes me downstairs and for the next hour and a half walks me through the whole process of how he sets a guitar up, intonates it, everything. Super cool. So not only did I get a free guitar, but I learned something. I'm getting ready to leave, and he says, hold on. He said, did you have an electric guitar at one point in time? Now, he had no idea. He didn't even know me from Adam. He had no idea that I played lead guitar at church. I said, I did at one time, yeah. I said, but I actually had to sell it too. I sold it for $50 to a friend of mine who was in need of a guitar. I sold it, way undersold it, because I thought, I was trying to help my buddy out. I was teaching him lessons on this guitar. It had really no bearing on me. I already had a guitar. So he said, and you sold it. And I could see his wheels turning. I said, yes, but that was for a good reason. I still had a guitar. I assure you, I will not sell this guitar. And he said, no, I believe you. I really feel like, he said, there's something about you that I can't put my finger on it, but I feel like we're going to be working together more than just this moment. I didn't know what he meant at that time. But as I'm getting ready to leave, he said, well, if you had an electric guitar, he said, I really feel like the Lord just inspired me to give you an electric as well. I was like, what? So he said, let's go back upstairs and pick out an electric. So I go back upstairs. I pick out a Washburn. Nice electric guitar. Sounded beautiful. Yet again, we go downstairs. We did everything from leveling frets to dressing the frets to, the thing played like a dream. And by the time I left that night, we prayed together. We talked together. I cried on his shoulder. I said, thank you so much. I was rejoicing in God. All the way home, I was just like, this is unbelievable. So before I left that night, I had an acoustic with a case and a strap. I had an electric with a case, a strap, a cord, and he even gave me a small amp to go with it. I was like, good Lord, I cannot believe all this just happened. Who am I to say that, though? I prayed for it. So I get back home. Everything's going great. I love the guitars. I'm playing them. I get to church about 3 Sundays after that. I get to church, and there's a really sweet, precious little girl. And she comes up to me and she says, I want to learn how to play guitar. And I'm like, great. Okay. Do you have a guitar to play on? Yeah. I said, well, great. Bring it tonight. I'll fix it up and we will start lessons. She brings me the guitar, and guys, I'm telling you what, the guitar, the neck was warped. It was twisted. It was missing pegs. And there's just so much stuff wrong with this guitar. And I said, honey, this is not going to play. Now, mind you, I had an acoustic at home. I had an electric that the church owned that I was playing, and I had an electric now that was given to me. My first inclination, without even thinking about it, I turned around, picked up that electric that he just gave me and handed it to her. And I said, here you go. This is yours now. And her eyes lit up. I felt like $1 million. I taught her on that guitar for quite some time, but I got back home that night and I thought, well, I really need to tell Don about this. So I call him up and I said, hey, Don, you're never going to believe this. And he goes, oh no, you sold the guitars. I said, no, it's worse. He said, how could it be worse? And I said, well, I actually gave the electric guitar away. And he said, you did what? And I said, yeah, I gave it away. He said, well, to who? So I told him the whole story about the little girl, and he goes, well, Robert, normally, you try to match the seed with the soil, the guitar being the seed. He said, normally you would give a higher end guitar like that to someone who can actually play, not just a beginner. And I said, I understand that, but I just wanted to help. And he kind of chuckled and he said, well, I really thought you were going to tell me that you sold the guitar or guitars. He said, I've been doing this for over 8 years at the time, I think is whenever he told me, 6 or 7 years maybe. He said, but in all the years that I've been doing this, I have never given a guitar to somebody and they have returned the favor and given it to someone else. He said, you're the first person that's ever done that. And so I commend you for that. Now I want you to come back and get another electric guitar. Yet again, I was like, what? Are you sure? He said, yes, you need an electric guitar. You've just given your electric guitar away. God has put it on my heart to help you. Come back and get another electric. So I go back down and I pick out an awesome Squier, Fender Squier, and we get it all set up. It's a beautiful black guitar. And to make a long story short, we're talking on the couch. I'm getting ready to leave. He's giving me this guitar and he says, I really want you. He said, I can only extend so far. And right now he's based in Greenwood. And he said, I can only get my feelers out to so many places. He said, would you be willing if I showed you how to intonate, how to refurbish these guitars and set them up? Would you be willing to take guitars that people have sort of cast off as refuse, fix them up and give them away to people in need? As a guitarist myself who loves to get into the nitty gritty of fixing guitars up anyway, I was like, absolutely. That was my first inclination. I said, but knowing how things are, I said, well, let me pray about it first. In which case he smiled and he said, that's a great answer. So I came back home. I really prayed about it. And I thought, Lord, if this is something you want me to do, then I want to make sure that I do it with all my heart. And so after much prayer and deliberation with God, I felt like it was in his will to do so. And so since then, I've been working alongside of him now for 5 years, I believe. And the thing about this ministry is because music is a universal language, you can touch people universally that normally would never pay attention to your God or to your gospel. And I don't preach to them. I just simply say, hey, I hear you're in need of a guitar. I hear that you're using it for worship or you're using it for the Lord or you want to start in-home personal worship or prayer. If you don't have the money for that, let me know. And since then, I have given away through him and obviously through the gift of God that he's given me, I've been able to give away over 17 guitars, over 5 or 6 bass guitars now, keyboards, a mandolin was even given away, a banjo-tar, pretty much anything with strings if it has to do with musical instruments. It's been a roller coaster, a good kind of roller coaster. But just seeing the joy on people's faces, especially little children, when they can't afford an instrument, their parents can't afford an instrument, they're just strapped for cash. I know he's completely, there's sometimes it just seems bleak. But for then you to just kind of show up out of nowhere and say, hey, here's a guitar, no strings attached, pardon the pun. It's completely set up for you. It's set up not just for a beginner, but it's set up to play well. It may not look the greatest because it's, been refurbished, but here you go. It's yours. No money. People's faces, they just light up. The kids light up. And then whenever you can, there's been a couple times where I've actually been able to circle back around and find those people again, and they're leading worship teams and they're helping small groups to develop worship teams. And anyway, I'm going to try not to get too emotional on you. It's just awesome to see the sparkle in their eyes and to see people that couldn't afford an instrument. Now suddenly they have an instrument. And It's an awesome thing. So if you want to go back and listen to that podcast where I actually interviewed Don, that is on there. Thanks for bringing that up, by the way, Mark. It's very cool. But because of being involved with that ministry, every time pretty much I would go down to pick up a guitar, Don would say, hey, I found this guitar that I thought would fit you really well. And I'm like, Don, I've got 3 guitars now. Well, you need another one. So I have a lot of people ask me, how in the world did you get all those instruments? All I can say is God. And I'm not saying that Don is God, but what I am saying is that because of my prayer that I made, God placed the right person in my path. He gave him that inclination in his heart to do things like this. He's completely debt-free. He was debt-free at 30 years old. He works a great job. Everything they have is paid for. So therefore, this is just like an extra added blessing for him to help be able to bless others. And that's people who have wealth and they use it that way. Blows my mind. I love to see that happen. And he is just that kind of person. So this guitar was given to me by another friend who seen that I had a guitar exactly like this that was stolen from our church several years back. I made a post about it. Didn't even say, hey, guys, I'd like to have a guitar. He just met me at a Starbucks, showed up with this guitar and said, man, this has been hanging on my wall for 3 years. It looks just like the guitar that you had. You can have it. So God has richly blessed me by giving me these instruments. So this one was given to me. Don gave me this one. That's the only instrument in the past 13 years that or even longer, honestly, that I've ever bought for myself. And that one actually came from a windfall, an artist named Adamental. He said he wanted to purchase my services, and I shot him a price tag, and he paid it up front. Boom, right there, $500. And I was just like, okay, I didn't expect that because it was a rather large project, and I thought, man, there's no way I'm going to have to charge a pretty large amount for this amount of work. He dropped the cash, and I was like, told my son, I said, I'm not going to have this much free money again, and I want to get my dream guitar. And so we went to Columbus that next day, and I said, I'm either leaving here with a drone or my dream guitar, because I love drone footage. We have a separate side business. Me and my wife work together on photography and videography. And so I said, I'm either leaving here with a drone or I'm leaving here with my dream guitar. And I went to the first guitar shop, nothing. I thought, well, let's go back to Best Buy. I'm going to go buy a drone and be happy. As I'm going back to Best Buy, I look on the right-hand side. There's a guitar shop that I hardly ever go in called Pickett's, Tom Pickett's. Super nice guy that works behind the counter. I've never talked to the guy before. We start talking about the Lord. I start telling him about Strings with Wings. He tells me about a place in Brown County that needs guitars. Funny how it all works. I look over to the right of me, and hanging on the bottom rack, looking right at me, is my dream guitar. The exact color, the make, the model, classic vibe, Telecaster. I'm like, how could all of this happen? And of course, he said, I just ordered that Wednesday, and this was on Thursday. Tell me God don't work. Just tell me. All right. So, anywho, I've got plenty of stories like that. I could go on for days, but thank you, by the way, Mark, for bringing that up. If you have not listened to that episode where I actually interview the founder of Strings with Wings, he's a super nice guy. Tim Consley says he's been to Pickett's many times. That's right. You do live right down the road. I forgot. He is such an awesome guy. And he had more stories than I could bat an eye at. He was telling stories about, some famous people actually that he was tied to and worked with, that had told stories about, seeing angels show up on their sets. And just, maybe you're not a religious person. I'm not trying to get too preachy here on the channel or anything like that, but it's part of me. It's part of the fiber of my being. I just can't extract myself from it. But it seems like just the more we got to talk, I absolutely loved Tom Pickett, and he cut me a really good deal on that guitar and the case. And I was able to pay him in cash that day. That was awesome. Awesome feeling. And I'm getting ready to upgrade that bad boy. So Warman Guitars has sent me some amazing pickups, and I'm getting ready to swap out of that for the original Squire Classic Vibe pickups. And I'm going to swap them out for some pretty high gain stuff. I'm getting a super switch so that I can, I'm probably do a tutorial on that, by the way, if you're interested. It's going to be a little bit off the beaten path of the music making tutorials. It's going to be a guitar tutorial on how to wire 2 humbuckers on a 5-way super switch to get phase, in phase, single coil, and double coil sounds without having to install a bunch of extra junk. You can just use that one 5-way switch. So that's going to be cool. That'll definitely be, and it'll also kind of be like a soldering tutorial. I wanted to do that for a while because when you're working in, especially even home studios, sometimes there's cords that you don't have that you're like, I wish I could just, all I need is like a 6-foot length cord. I don't need a 50-foot length cord. And so soldering definitely comes in handy. So I'll do a quick soldering tutorial on that as well. But anyway, I have rambled enough, guys. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Thank you so much for all of your love and support. I appreciate each and every one of you. And whenever I say that, I want you guys to know I don't just say that. I mean that. And every time that you come on here, whether you donate or not, you're an awesome person in my book because you've taken time out of your day to come and hang out. So thank you so much. Remember that this channel exists to simplify the complexities of the home studio and to help you make professional sounding music in a less than professional space. We can dream alone. We can even create alone. But together, we can achieve so much more. God bless each and every one of you. I love you all. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let's collaborate more.